Well, you were talking today with such an admiration how the creator created this gap between him and the creature, so that it would become the primary. The creature would become primary. You weren't able to verbalize it clearly, though. It's just like we act with kids. We behave with them in the same way. We let them lead, move forward by helping them from behind. We want them to advance further, of course. It's all reflected in our nature. How did it happen so that you were saying that the creator has made such concealment that the creature would sense itself to be separate out of absolute love? Just like us, even in our egoistic world. Can you imagine such thing that in our egoistic world, when we are all egoists here, and all we ought to do here to consume each other, to use each other to in any possible ways. Besides all that, there is another force exists in our world of reciprocity, partaking, compassion, meaning expression of love on all kinds of levels. Thus, there is an environment in our world that exists for life to exist. Egoistic force alone couldn't have existed, but when such egoistical force itself contains two types of egoism, then there is a room for some kind of existence. And based on that, you can make different kinds of approximations, estimations. What would it be like if I loved unselfishly? Or if I wished something for other without benefits for myself, and so on. So already there can be some moral basis for some sort of fantasy, though it's also egoistic, but still exists. It exists in our world, in our egoism, precisely as a result of shattering of desires in upper world and descending to the level of our world. So we get these interesting combinations of egoism and quality of bestowal. When this one person desires only to receive it all, and yet he has this little quality of bestowal in him, which at the same time obeys him, but still the egoism senses in it a specific pleasure. Like when people give something to each other and receive pleasure from it. They can love each other, although it's an egoistic fulfillment, but it represented as bestowing upon someone while you're fulfilling yourself. You receive pleasure. On the whole, it's an egoism, but egoism relative, like that, meaning through the outward action. It's a very interesting system on its own. It's not researched neither by psychologists nor by anyone else. They can't make sense out of it yet, and as a matter of fact, they won't make it on time that is given. We're going to reveal the upper world, and from that point, we're going to learn about our world, and not from our failing attempts to research it. It's a very time-consuming and laborious process, so no one needs it. We need to learn the lower world from the higher world. That way it's done fast, efficiently, and right to the point. But still, it's very fascinating overall. Overall, this whole system of our world. Altruistically, egoistical built. Altruism inside of egoism. Egoism rules over everything, but inside of it, there are acts this tiny altruistic system which develops it constantly. Just because of it, egoism evolves. Else, it would remain on its level. If there was no quality of altruism inside of egoism, it would be tiny primitive particles of inanimate matter. Even that wouldn't exist, actually. Meaning, the force of bestowal must exist along with the force of receiving. And then, when this quality of bestowal evolves more and more, only then it develops the nature from inanimate to vegetative, then to animate, then to human natures. It's the quality of bestowal evolves the egoism. Just because it aids the expansion and complexing the systems of connections built on mutual inclusions, supplementations, information flow, and so on. And thus it evolves. If not the quality of bestowal, the quant of light, which fell into the matter, into the desire, then it wouldn't have evolved. It's lifeless. All that develops it is that quant of light. And if on top of that quant of light, that spark, through correct studying of Kabbalah, through correct interactions between us, if we can attract surrounding light on top of that, then by doing that, how can I say it? Our entire system, we awaken in such level, we evolve it in such it's so much that the external light shines upon it. It provides the sensation of self, forms it according to itself, literally molds it right in front of our eyes, while we work with ourselves on uniting. We strive toward it without even knowing how, and in return it injects its form to the degree of our strivings through our efforts, trying like a little baby, and at the end it works. Through that it attracts the appropriate impact by the upper light. That's how it works. You know, there is a category of people that are ready to help others. For example, help ill, homeless people. But there it's rather a fear at work, fear that it can happen to you, of course. So it's not an altruism at work in that case. Well, listen, doesn't matter. He knows that if he does such altruistic actions, then he'll feel good. Still, it's more advanced kind of egoism. So it isn't bad when a person acts that way, is it? Trying to help others? Of course it's not bad, but that he does it. It's better if we offer each other something that would be on guard rather than be on guard constantly grinning at each other like that. What's good about it? Look, how many billions were wasted throughout the Cold War years. It's terrible. We could have made the entire world happy. It's ridiculous amounts of money. Can you imagine what kind of machine was put to work to support it? And now it's still continuing. Let's say they stood against each other for 70 years. So instead simply creating happiness here on Earth, Russia even worse. At least something for people, somewhere. Nope, nothing. All for the sake of militarization. So, wouldn't it be better to come to some sort of agreement? Mutually, egoistical, of course, but still better than standing with spears, pointing at each other, but rather interact.